deal with it. We good? All right. Welcome back, friends. Now today I want to talk to you about something I'm a bit more passionate about than most other people. And that is the topic of to-do lists. Now, when I was doing research for this video, I found that 41% of people that write things down on their to-do list never actually end up getting them done. Now, that's kind of wild considering that in 2020, we've got more productivity and task management apps than ever before. We've got tools like Asana, Trello, Todoist, Basecamp, the list goes on. We've got new tools coming out every single day, and they all promise that they're the one that's gonna help you get things done. But at the end of the day, we gotta realize that tools are just that, tools. And tools are only as good as how we use them, as what we do with them. So you can have all these tools, you can have the best tool in the world, but that tool won't make a difference in your productivity unless you have a good system for how you get things done. Now, throughout my years of productivity rabbit hole diving, I've used a lot of these different processes and tools and all that, and I think I've got a pretty solid system now for getting things done, moving things forward, especially when you have a ton on your plate. So today I want to open up that process to you and show you how I get things done, juggle a ton of balls, and feel less guilty about not getting certain things done while focusing on high value tasks. So if you don't have your to-do list already, pause the video, go make one, grab it, and once you got your to-do list, let's do this. So the first step I take is I sit down on Sunday night and do a massive brain dump. And I ask myself this question: this time next week, where do I want to be? Now I look at next Sunday, what do I want to have done by next Sunday? Where do I want to be, and reverse engineer my week from there. So I'll look at that date and I'll start what has to be done on Saturday to make that happen. What has to be done on Friday to make that happen. Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, etc. That helps me understand what's the most important thing for me and what I gotta start working on today to make sure that I'm at that place next Sunday. The second thing I do is, this is where it gets exciting, is I run that to-do list, this massive brain dump I have now, through two filters: urgency and importance. Now you're gonna wanna follow along very closely for this part. So grab a pen and bring out your to-do list. We're gonna label things as urgent and as important. And here's how you're gonna decide what's highly urgent and what's low urgency, high importance and low importance. Ready? So for urgency, the first question you wanna ask yourself is someone waiting on this? Have you promised this to a client, to a coworker, to a friend? Does someone else need this thing that you're working on? If yes, check it off. Next question, is a project stalled because this isn't done yet? So this thing you're working on, is someone waiting on it to move the project forward? Does a client need this? Does a graphic designer need this to help move a part of their project forward? If the answer is yes, check it off. Last, are you late? Has this been postponed already? Are you behind on this? Have you missed a deadline? If yes, mark it off. Now, if anything on your to-do list has more than 2 check marks here, then I want you to mark that as highly urgent. If anything on your to-do list has less than 2 of those boxes checked, mark that as low urgency. Next up, we're gonna do importance. Now, the first thing you wanna ask yourself is, if this doesn't get done, will I regret this? Next up is, will doing this provide compounded benefits? Now, just a quick note on that. What I mean by compounded benefits is this one thing that I do one time, or if I keep doing it over and over again, will my return off of doing that go like this? Will there be an exponential return off of doing that? Some examples of that are exercising. As you exercise more and more, you get healthier and healthier. Another example is creating content. You create one piece of content, you do a good job with it, more and more people start seeing it, you get more inquiries, etc. So if it provides compounded benefits, that's important. Lastly, if you don't do this, will there be negative consequences? Will you get backlash from a coworker, from a client? Will you look bad? Will it hurt your reputation? If the answer is yes, mark that off. Now, just like for urgency, with importance, we want to do the same thing. If you have 2 or more of those things checked off, that's highly important. If you have less than 2 things checked off, it's low importance. Now that you added these labels of urgent and importance to your to-do list, you can start to see kind of that not every task on your to-do list has the same weight. Some things are obviously more important and more urgent than others. Now, the next step that we're going to take in helping visualize our priorities is what I like to call, well, not me, I didn't invent it, but some guy named Eisenhower, he invented this matrix. Now, I never knew this Eisenhower guy, but I think he was productive. I think he got things done because he made this tool, and anyway, here is where we're going to start to lay out what we have on our to-do list. So on your to-do list now, beside each task, you have two labels. You have either high urgency or low urgency, and you have high importance or low importance. So what you're going to do now is you're going to run through that to-do list. Well, make one of these first, run through to-do list, and take those tasks and plot them in each of these sections. After you've done that, we're going to do this. And boom. Okay, so now that you've plotted your to-do list items by urgency and importance, you're going to look at these next 4 quadrants and help you decide what needs to be done first, second, third, and maybe never. So the first quadrant of things that are highly urgent and highly important is do. Next up is going to be delegate. So these things are super urgent, but not as important. Next up is defer. So this is important, but not as urgent. And last is delete. Not important, not urgent. Things that you have in this box, you can go ahead and get rid of right away. So let me run you through each of these boxes and help you understand the difference between do, delegate, defer, and delete. So things in the do column are things that only you can do. Things that other people on your team or your coworkers or your team members can't do for you. So for example, recording this video and talking to the camera is something that only I can do. My video editor can't do this. But what they can do is edit the video. Now that goes into the delegate column, because editing the video is super urgent, but I can't do it myself. If I were to do it, it would take me way more time than having Abhav, my video editor, shout out Abhav. It would take me way longer to edit it than it would take him. So those are things that I want to delegate to my team. Now with delegation, a good criteria to look at is who can do this that's more effective at this than I am. Video editing is a great example, and that's why I got Abhav doing this. Now, I know that not everyone has a team that they can delegate to if you're a student or a solopreneur, but you can also look at delegation as delegating to your future self. So if the do column is things that you do today, delegate, that column is things that you do tomorrow. And then defer are things that you do later in the week. So if you can't do it today, or if you can't have a team member do it for you, you can delegate it to your future self. Now with defer, those are things that you can put off for later in the week, like I mentioned. Those are things that need to get done, but they're not as urgent. They can wait. People aren't dying for this. It's not stalling a project. It needs to get done, but it can wait. You can defer those for later in the week. Now our last column, delete. If it's not important, if it's not urgent, you shouldn't be worried about it. Now, what this framework helps you do is to realize that, again, not everything on your to-do list has the same weight. I'd rather focus, for me personally, I look at it this way. I'd rather get 2 or 3 really impactful things done in one day than 12 miscellaneous tasks that I won't remember next week. At the end of all this, a really good question to ask yourself is, when I'm 80, will I regret not doing this? If the answer is yes, that should be on your to-do list, nothing else. So to recap, the first step you want to do is on Sunday night, do a massive brain dump and reverse engineer your week. Ask yourself, where do you want to be this time next week, and work backwards from there. Next, once you have a massive list of things that you want to get done, you want to take them through 2 filters of what's urgent and what's important. Once you have that done, you want to categorize those tasks into what needs to be done now, what can be delegated to a team member or to future me, what can be deferred to later in the week, and what's really not that important. Doing this will help you realize that not everything that's on your to-do list needs to get done, and you can stay a lot more sane too. So that's the end of this video, and that's a look at my productivity system for prioritization. Now, when I started on this whole entrepreneurship thing and juggling a job and school with building a business, it's tough because you got all these demands and you're trying to live a personal life, a social life too, hang out with your friends, and it's tough getting things done. And more often than not, I would end the day feeling guilty for not finishing my to-do list. But as I got older and as I started kind of refining my processes, I started realizing that not everything on my to-do list needs to get done tomorrow or ever, really. By focusing on the high-value tasks, I move the projects forward that matter and leave the dust behind me. Now again, before I end this video, I do want to remind you all that this is my process. This is something that I've started working on for the past few years and built up and learned that it works for me. Now you might have a complete other process that works for you, but I hope this process can kind of serve as a benchmark or a baseline for you to start off on. I know we talked about tools in the beginning and I kind of made it sound like tools from the devil, but they're not. A good tool can help you take a great process to new levels and help you do way, way more. For me right now, the tool that I use is Notion. Notion is an incredible productivity system that you can develop into whatever you want, into calendars, Kanban boards, lists. The possibilities are endless. If you want to check out Notion, I've got a link in my bio or in the description below. Instagram force to have it. I've got a link in the description below for $10 credits off of Notion for you to get started on. And of course, if this video helped you, if you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend, like, comment, subscribe. I would love it. Really appreciate you guys doing that, and I'll see you next time.